Hello, I'm Dori Nando. You can catch up with all the fun on the Cosmopolitan Mix and on all our shows via podcast. Just go to My Joy Online podcast and search for your favorite show and relive those moments all over again. Only on Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Good morning and welcome to AM News here on the AM Show. The latest road safety report by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has revealed an alarming increase in the number of head injuries from motorcycle accidents in the Accra metropolis. The report links the injuries directly to the improper use of helmets by motorcycle riders and their passengers. Authorities at the Assembly say they plan to engage riders on the safe use of the roads to reduce these crashes. Judith Awachitando has more in the following report.
Every month, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital records an average of 102 road crash injuries, amongst which are head injuries. Records from the hospital showed that a number of 168 head injuries were recorded between the months of September and December last year. Emmanuel Ahiable is an emergency medicine specialist at the hospital.
So we try to tease out head injuries associated crashes. So from the chart here, you can see that head injuries are classified as mild, moderate, and severe. So we had 86 of those who were involved in RTA and all crashes having mild injuries, and we didn't record any mortality. Then if you look at the moderate head injury, about 48 of them sustained moderate head injuries, and 3 of them, we lost 3 of them. And the severe head injury, which is more fatal, 34 of them, and 11, we lost 11. So in total, 168 head injuries.
While authorities strive to reduce road crashes in the city, overspeeding has proven to be a major challenge. Mayor of Accra, Mohammed Ejaisoa, explains the AMA is working together with the police MTTD to enforce the use of speed limits designated on our roads.
It is an undeniable fact that despite the efforts that we have made in reducing the overspeeding, it is still a big issue for us within the city of Accra, and it's the number one killer that I have observed. Together with the MTTD, we are waging war against overspeeding in Accra.
The report also highlighted a decline in the correct use of helmets among motorcycle riders. It dropped from 75% to 69% between 2019 and 2020. Similarly, the rate of correctly worn helmets amongst passengers on motorcycles dropped from 45% in 2019 to 25% in 2020. This data, according to the AMA, links to the increasing number of head injuries experienced within our hospitals. Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Mayor Briebois, however, says the NRSA is working to increase education on the proper use of the helmet.
I think for us, that is where education sensitization comes in, and it's very much in our domain. And so this statistics has even given us more information for us to be able to prove to them. And we've been having programs for them. The DVLA right now is also coming out with some instructors who will be trained to be able to also train the motorcycles. So we will use that opportunity as part of the modules for them to know how to wear the helmets.
Judith Awachitando, JoyNews.
Meanwhile, the Motor Transport and Traffic Directorate of the Ghana Police Service has deployed more than 3,000 intelligent surveillance cameras in a bid to crack down on dangerous driving. Now, these devices will be positioned at major intersections, strategic locations, and government installations to monitor and capture motorists who drive recklessly. So far, the center has captured 200 road offenders who are being prosecuted. Hannah Odame took a tour of the center and has filed this report.
Center has in 2 weeks captured 200 road offenders. These people had parked on unauthorized places, jumped red lights, and engaged in overspeeding, among others. Armed robbers will also be caught because the cameras are on virtually every major road in the country.
I noticed an offender. He's not supposed to park on the road. This is termed as unauthorized parking. I get a video of the area, zoom, get the cars and then take pictures of it. The pictures have been taken. There's a software being embedded in a camera, which is called ANPR, automatic number plate recognition. It takes a shot of the number plate registration. That's how evidence is being captured.
Then what do you do with it after?
So after that, it's been, let me say, piled up. And then at the end of the day, it's been sent to our senior officers and then they are being contacted for prosecution.
Supervisor at the center, Chief Superintendent Joseph Zanu, believes this will help instill discipline and also reduce the carnage on the country's roads.
Wherever you started your journey, once our cameras are looking at you, we are able to play back what happened when you drive on our way. So technically, the cameras are not the normal CCTV cameras. They are special cameras that have special security features that makes us able to arrest you when you commit these offenses.
Commissioner in charge of Police Administration, Superintendent Dr. Samuel Sasu-Mensah, notes, though the police is not out to get offenders, motorists should be vigilant because when they are caught, they will not be spared.
The issue is that you don't have to see the physical presence of the policeman on the road before we can enforce traffic rules and regulations. We are, as at now, going to use this type of system to make sure that drivers who flout traffic rules and regulations are arrested and prosecuted.
For JoyNews, I am Hannah Odame.
Now, the Ashanti Regional Police Command has arrested 2 suspects to aid in the investigation of the murder of a 45-year-old palm wine tapper. Now, the deceased, Yao Kwachi, armed himself with a single-barrel gun and stormed a distillery at Nhweneso No. 1 community to demand his distillery pipe from a colleague. A struggle between the deceased and 2 others allegedly resulted in the shooting to death of Yao Kwachi. Here's Nana Yao Jime's report.
The police at Francis say an argument ensued between the deceased, Yao Kwachi, and William Frimpong. A gun wielded by Yao Kwachi accidentally triggered, leading to his death. Suspects William Frimpong and Kwesi Appiah have since been arrested by the police as part of investigation. Ashanti Region Police PRO, ASP Godwin Ahianyo explains.
Police have since arrested the 2 suspects to assist in our investigation, while the body of the deceased has been deposited at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital mortuary for preservation and autopsy. The regional crime scene team had also been at the scene for reconstruction at the crime scene.
Police at Ebuaka on Tuesday also picked the body of a man suspected to be in his early 20s dead at Daba. It is suspected he was lynched on suspicion of theft.
In this very case, preliminary investigation has also disclosed that at about 12:50 a.m. on same day, some unidentified persons pursued him as an alleged thief, subjected him to beatings, tied him, and then fastened him with a vehicle and put him to a location where he was later found dead. The police is making frantic efforts to get the perpetrators arrested.
On Tuesday, police rescued 24-year-old Michael Akwesi Agyemang from being lynched for attempted kidnapping of a 5-year-old. He has been arrested and named his accomplice.
The suspect during questioning admitted offense and mentioned one Eric as the one who contracted him to kidnap the said child. He, however, could not lead police to arrest the said Eric. He is also detained to assist in investigation.
The police at Asqua have also arrested 3 persons, namely Malik Isaka, Richmond Amankwa, and Isaac Obi, for attacking a mobile money vendor of 18,000 cedis at Pramso. ASP Ahianyo says efforts are being made to arrest a 4th suspect.
When police went to the crime scene, 3 empty shells of an AK-47 assault rifle were retrieved at the scene. We believe the 4th person, who is on the run, might have escaped with the AK-47 assault rifle. We are making all efforts to get him arrested.
To deal with the increasing crime, the police have embarked on a series of swoops.
The 44 police districts within the region have embarked on series of swoops. I mean separate swoops within the past week. And we've been able to arrest 522 suspects. We are profiling the suspects, photograph them, we create an album. So anytime we go back again and we get them arrested, those who be found culpable will be made to face the full rigors of the law.
For JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Commuters plying the Wa Nadoli Highway in the next few days will be able to get to their destination without any difficulty. This is because PNW Ghanem, one of 4 contractors contracted by the government to fix major roads washed off by violent flash floods in the region, has begun work at Goriri. Correspondent Rafiq Salam visited the sites and reports.
Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amankwata, in an encounter with the press after flying in a helicopter to the flood-affected areas, pledged to fix the roads in record time, adding that engineers were already tasked to do the road designs ahead of the award of the contracts.
And even on top of their heads, the engineers are coming up with some solutions. We are going to make use of boulders in filling what we call the backfill of the culverts, and do some stone pitching at certain areas, so that we do not experience this again in the future.
PNW Ghanem, one of 4 contractors contracted by the government to fix the roads, began work on Wednesday morning at Goiri, located on the Wa Nadoli Highway. The Lebanese Ghana-based contractor PNW Ghanem is not new in the road construction industry, as he has been in the region for over 60 years and has constructed more than 80% of the major roads in the region, including some of the roads washed away by the violent floods. Material engineer of the Ghana Highways Authority in the Upper West region, Kofi Ajayi, let me in on what they have been doing since morning.
We are filling in with gravel. So all the sections that were cut off, we are filling it with gravel and then compacting it very well so that any vehicle that wants to cross this section can cross and go to the other side. Later, when the rain stops, then we will put in culverts to allow for the water that cuts the road to be able to cross more effectively.
Okay. And so this work that you are doing, how soon are you going to end?
For this section, we are hoping that within maybe a matter of less than 1 week, the road should be open for people to.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali said he is somehow relieved that work on fixing the roads in the region is going according to plan.
We indicated that we were in a difficult situation and we needed to work with record speed, and that is what we have done. On Monday, as announced by the Minister for Roads and Highways, 4 competent contractors were selected to carry on the repair of the road works in the region. And here we are today. Some have started work 2 other contractors have been sent to their site, and I believe that before the close of the week, they will also be on site.
Although the work is yet to be completed, some commuters are excited of the initial work done by the contractor.
Coming from work every day to school and going back, usually I pass through Dafiama, through Duong to go to Queen of Peace and come through that, in and out, which is about 40 Ghana. And when I come here and they pick the motor and pick me the 15 cities or the 20 cities, it's worrisome. But now that I've seen the grader on site, I'm very, very happy, and I believe strongly that in due course, the road will be very motorable for all possible users for us to come back to normalities. So I'm very glad and very happy seeing the grader on site.
People travel in and out and buy things and then go and sell. Even the revenue that the road generates for the government is also going down. Productivity is also down because workers cannot go to work. But once we have seen that the workers are on site, we are very, very excited.
Beaming with more excitement and smiles is middle-aged Donesia. She was here on Monday accompanying her daughter who was in labor. She told me the struggles they went through.
When we were going, we have to pass through 2 dangerous places, one of them being a weak ladder. But now I am happy that one of the hurdles at least is removed.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Goriyiri.
And the Vicar General of the Catholic Diocese of Jasokine, Reverend Father Joseph Kofinsia, has appealed to stakeholders to join forces with the government to develop the country's colleges of education. According to him, these institutions, which were upgraded to degree-awarding tertiary institutions, are plagued with numerous challenges impeding the training of teachers. He was speaking at the 13th congregation of the Jasokine College of Education in that district of the OT region.
The Jasokine College of Education, established in 1952 with a handful of students, now has a student population of 1,265. Though the school has seen some infrastructural improvement, there is still more to be done. Addressing the 13th congregation, the principal of Jasokine College of Education, Dr. Daniel Hammond, underscored the need for the construction of a fence.
Major steps are being taken by management to mobilize resources and ensure that the college fence wall project begins as soon as possible. This is dear to my heart because it has led to a lot of indiscipline and misconduct on campus. Also, we wish to put on record that the government has released funds for the continuation of the auditorium complex project, which started in 2011. We are also hopeful that the government will come to our aid in due course to enable us deal with our infrastructure deficits.
The Vicar General, Catholic Diocese of Jasokine, Reverend Father Dr. Joseph Kofinsia, who was the guest of honor, identified the lack of adequate human resources, infrastructural deficit, poor conditions of service, inadequate academic logistics, among others, as challenges that should be addressed in colleges of education.
Successive governments that have conceived the idea of upgrading colleges of education to tertiary level merit profuse words of congratulation, because all things being equal, the better the formator is, the better the outcome. The positive results of this bold step of the government will surely manifest in some years to come. The gradual transformation of college education in Ghana into tertiary status cannot be left to government efforts alone. Stakeholders, both internal and external, must contribute to making this government agenda a success.
The OT Regional Minister, Joshua Makubu, made known the government's efforts in improving on the state of tertiary institutions in the country.
We are all aware of the infrastructure deficits in most of our tertiary institutions, including colleges of education, because of the implementation of free SHS. As a matter of the implementation of the free SHS, the enrollment has increased, and it is a fact that accommodation on our tertiary education campus has become a challenge. That notwithstanding, government is pursuing all strategies to ensure that teaching and learning proceeds effectively without any interruption.
The 2018-2019 cohorts comprised 405 graduates, with 3 obtaining first class, while the 2019-2020 cohort comprised 324 graduates. 11 obtained first class honors. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Jasekain.
And that's it for AM News this morning. But stay tuned in. Coming up next is the newspaper review with Israel Lai and myself. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, let's go. So on the front page, SOE's governance CEO board positions to go public. So this is an attempt by by SIGA, which is a State Interest and Governance Authority, trying to make the appointment to these public institutions more transparent and more competitive. Well, let's see how that goes, because they said they're going to open it up. And so, under the proposed framework, interested persons will be required to apply for advertised positions, after which those shortlisted will be presented to the president to pick his choices. And for me, that then goes back to, okay, if the president is still going to pick his choices, we may end up with people who, I don't know how that works with the attempt to turn things around and make things a little different. We go to page 5. Gunmen kill 36 villagers in Nigeria. Morocco rejects Algeria's reasons for severing ties. And first, Afghan evacuees arrive in Uganda. When I saw the story, I thought, oh, okay, so Uganda has evacuated its nationals from Afghanistan.
No.
But no, it turns out that it was an American evacuation. They are just transiting
through Uganda.
They're just transiting Uganda, so they'll leave Uganda and go. So
it should have said first Afghan evacuees transit through Uganda. Like arrive in Uganda is just a little misleading, though.
Well, yeah. Okay, 5 dead in gun battle near French embassy in Tanzania. All right, move on to WHO calls for 2-month vaccine booster moratorium. So, you know, a number of the developed countries have vaccinated a significant number of their people, and now they're looking at having a booster jab. And the WHO is saying, oh, please hold on for about 2 months, because there are countries like Ghana and many places in Africa where
they haven't gotten...
Yeah, they haven't even vaccinated by 1% of their population. So it's quite worrisome that we're looking at others wanting to get booster jabs. Give us those booster jabs. Let's vaccinate so that the world can, be a better place for all of us. Yeah. And then Western nations race to complete evacuation from Afghanistan. Right, and let's go to page 16. And Abesim murder. So the victim's body part exhumed. That's the story here, and it has a photograph of the suspect, Richard Appiah, in the. And so the police have exhumed the intestines of one of the Abesim murder victims from a cocoa farm. The intestines were exhumed last Tuesday after police investigators had discovered that Richard Appiah, the man arrested in connection with the murder of 3 children at Abesim in the Bono region, had buried them in the cocoa farm in the town. And then he said the acting director general of public affairs, directorate of the Ghana Police Service, ACP Kwesi Ofori, he said 2 machetes with blood stains on them had also been retrieved, saying it was believed that they were used by Appiah to commit the crimes. I'm wondering why he went to bury the intestines, though. This whole thing is bizarre. But yes, we'll be having a conversation about it, because we're trying to understand why these crimes are occurring and what could be the motive. We'll be speaking with a psychologist who would attempt to get into the minds of these criminals and suspects, and trying to get to understand what is happening. And then police begin prosecution. Camera captures 252 offenders. So we're talking about the traffic
cams.
Yeah, the traffic cams that the police says is going to be using to prosecute people who
But you
pass
see,
through traffic
Israel,
regulations.
Again, this is my thing. When they take pictures of these cars,
yes,
right? Do they have the systems and the networks to be able to trace the owners?
They said they would resort to the DVLA, so they would take those details to the DVLA for the DVLA to provide the details of the.
What's details that they have?
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Oh, well, when you register a vehicle,
I mean, so they'll have like car owner details. And
car owner
stuff, and
details,
then
your
it'll
phone
become
number, your email address, and all that.
As the car owner to.
So they'll reach out to you.
Okay.
Your vehicle has been involved in. We've caught it here. You're needed. You're supposed to show up in court.
And if I don't,
go
do
and
you know
answer.
where I live?
Well, it would mean I don't know what
Details
the plan is,
okay.
but then I would want to believe that the DVLA or the police can blacklist, can flag your vehicle, so that when you have to go,
back, okay, that's a good
to renew your roadworthy,
you'll have issues because
you'd have
it will
issues,
be flagged, if the system would work. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay.
So please be a lot more careful when you're out there on the road and speeding and all of that, because you could get yourself.
I look
trouble
forward to
with
the
law.
days when we have speeding tickets and stuff like that.
I also look forward to that. I think we need to do a lot more of the spot fine, system.
That's still being looked at, isn't it?
Find
Hasn't
them
been
and then let them
implemented
go away.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 NDC MPs lodged complaint with Shraj, and 2 National Democratic Congress members of Parliament have petitioned the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shraj, to investigate the 7 deaths and 8 injuries that occurred during the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. So Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa and Emmanuel Kofi Boa. We're having 2 MPs join us. We would put that to them as well to get their take on it. And then have faith in government. Kwadaso MP urges youth. So Dr. Kingsley Nyako essentially saying that, the youth that are putting pressure on government. They say, we want jobs and all of that. Just hold on. Government is on course to develop and transform the economy. And, when I hear stuff like that, it's like deja vu. You're like 28 years ago, we had the same rhetoric. That I recall it was ex-president, the late ex-president Rawlings, who was saying that the Ghanaian economy is about to take off. This was like 28 years ago. Yeah.
It's a long runway.
Yeah.
Still,
We're taxiing.
Still, yes, please.
All right, so let's move on to page 20. And page 20 has the story, the Pukwasi expedition that you embarked on yesterday. And it turned out that, we didn't get, so that's the story. Pukwasi interchange chop bar operators arrested. So a 60-year-old man and his daughter have been arrested for allegedly operating an eatery, locally known as chop bar, on a pavement of the newly constructed Pukwasi interchange. Kwame Ado, the operator of the chop bar, and Comfort Dati, 32, his daughter, were picked up yesterday. They were arrested after a video showing a man pounding fufu, a local dish made with cassava and plantain, had gone viral. And so yes, you went out there.
I went there in the morning, and the pavement was empty. So what it is that you see that spot of pavement is not like the long, like thinnish pavement.
Okay.
It's under the interchange, and it's a nice square area.
Oh, wow.
It's ripe. It's ripe for activity because it's perfect. So I can imagine how, at night, and of course during the day they don't come.
All right.
And there are lots of AMA
officials.
That's the word. Officials there, and the police and stuff directing churches. But it's this big, nice, and apparently, they would go there, nice setup, really nicely.
I mean, I could see if you can get us the video.
And I think what kills everybody is the fact that they are pounding the food there, like right under the interchange, like it's freshly made.
We'll try and get you the video. The video was taken at night, actually.
Yeah, they come at night.
Then we'll see. You may not see it as vividly as anyone is trying to explain. But yeah, let's move on. So then we go to page 26, where Uponi trial, Attorney General fights prohibition of justice on Yanuga. So You know, in the trial of the former Cocoa Board chief executive, the lawyers fought for one of the judges to be taken off, Justice Onyonga to recuse himself. But then the Attorney General is trying to get that decision reversed. And GIMPA introduces new master's program in development communication. It says what makes these new programs unique are the inbuilt mechanisms of social media, analytics, innovations, research, and hands-on applications, according to a release put out by GIMPA. And then we go to page 34. SME's key to digital economy. That's a Bank of Ghana governor. And Yara Ghana commits to high standards, addressing infrastructure challenges in mining communities. That's the Mine Workers Union saying that. Nuclear power, key to electricity tariff reduction. That's NPI saying that, and it's very true. I believe very much strongly that it's going to help to bring our tariffs down. And 39, on page 39, creative industry needs overhaul. That's Mark Okreku Mante. The makeup no longer for dropouts. I agree.
Okay,
long cease being one for dropouts. Chieftaincy disputes. A Konfi Asam chiefs residents call for intervention. EP Church gets new assembly clerk. And process to review CSR Act begins. And follow safety precautions. Fire service advises shop owners. And there's a demonstration on how to put out fires. And Car Powership wins mentorship award, and it has a photograph of Miss Sandra Markwe, communication specialist at Car Powership Ghana, receiving that award. And in sports, Techi presents Olympic medal to GMPC. Okay. And GFA DDP signed branding agreement for league. And on the back page, solving yearly dam spillage flooding, 7 communities to be resettled. And Zoom Lion launches greening beautification of Ashanti. Okay, so I'm done. And
6. What time did you take
30,
over?
34.
Oh wow. Okay. 12
No, but
minutes.
we had interactions.
Nah, fam. Nah. Anyways, on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, Ghana, home of business investments in Africa, precedents to German investors. Attorney General goes to the Supreme Court seeking review of decision on Opuning. 2 NDC MPs petition Shraj over killings during 2020 general elections. Okay, well, self-styled businessman gets 5 years for defrauding banker of 28,000 Ghana cedis. That's on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. On page 4, we're taking steps to have 23.9 million Ghana cedi fertilizer debt write-off approved by Parliament, and that's the CEO, Mr. Joseph Boahin Edu of Cocoa Board. That's on page 4. UN alarmed by influx of Eritrean troops to Tigray. Oh gosh, that's happening. Okay, Somalia is bracing for the polls amid uncertainty over stability and cohesion. Algeria cuts diplomatic relations with Morocco. Okay, landslides kill 15 in western Venezuela, 80,000 Afghans evacuated. So it's unlikely that the deadline to evacuate people from Afghanistan will be extended beyond August 31. Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, he told BBC Breakfast in the UK that they would like more time. But Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid said he didn't think the deadline would be extended. The US is being pressed by other countries to delay its withdrawal of troops. God, I can imagine if you're like an army wife right now, or like you have your husband or your wife or your family member is in Afghanistan now, as serving as. That would be so difficult. That would be so difficult.
If that person happens to be in the U.S. Army, they're more protected. I think they're a lot safer.
Yeah.
Than anybody else.
Yeah, no, definitely.
are more like in a cocoon.
Yeah.
And the government is negotiating with the Taliban.
Yeah.
So,
but still, I mean, the anxiety, like there would be so much. I mean, even if you were there, like
the challenge has to do with people who have worked with the U.S. Embassy as interpreters and sometimes cleaners and the rest. The Taliban seized such people as people who, you know, like
were sleeping with the enemy, as it were. Yeah.
And so that makes their case
a bit. Yeah. Well, the U.S. report on COVID-19 origins is unconclusive. So a U.S. intelligence report requested by President Biden into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic is inconclusive, U.S. media reports say. Agencies are reportedly divided on whether the virus, first seen in China, was a result of a natural spillover from animals to humans or was caused by a laboratory accident. But it's inconclusive, so no answers there. Okay, Kaka's family wants justice to prevail, appeals to the national chief imam to intervene. That's on page 7. Yana commends leadership of the Methodist Church. A life of self-discipline. That's on page 8. Okay. If you want to get more discipline, definitely read that. Let's move on to page 12. Appoint persons with competence and integrity as head of institutions. This is the chairman of Internal Audit Agency, Joseph Winfield, speaking. Mahama has also been speaking. NDC maintained level heads for peace and unity of nation in election 2020. Moving on, center spread. That story about President Akufo-Addo and the Germans telling them that that Ghana is the home of business investment in Africa. President Akufo-Addo seems to be really enjoying himself in Germany. Do you want to just come home now, please? I think you've been gone for much too long. We need to play that song for him. And we'll deal with misguided separatists in Volta, OT regions, and suspend the automatic adjustment of fuel prices the TUC have said to governments. Okay, let's move on. Okay, page 24. Santeo and Ajay Kojo residents demonstrate against poor roads. UK government offers 21 Ghanaians Chevening scholarship. Well, that's really nice. Peasant farmers GAFAP threatened demo to demand government support. Ghana needs $522 billion actually to meet SDGs. Wow. So the government will need $522 billion to fully meet the country's sustainable development goals by 2030. This means that Ghana will need about $52 billion every year to implement the SDGs 17 set of goals adopted by world leaders in September 2015. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. Anyways, okay, let's do some sports. Champions League draw today. So the draw for this year's UEFA Champions League will take place today in Istanbul, with defending champions Chelsea among the teams waiting to find out who they will face in the group stage. Serena Williams pulls out of the U.S. Open. So she has pulled out of next week's U.S. Open. She posted on social media and said that she needed to time to allow her body to heal completely from a torn hamstring. So she is joining men's champion Dominic Thiem, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, who have all pulled out of the U.S. Open this year. It's happening in New York, and it begins on August 30th. So, okay, Mbappe. Well, Real Madrid are making a £137 million bid for Mbappe. Oh, that should be interesting. They want to take him from Paris Saint-Germain. I'm sure he's looking forward to playing with Messi, though, so I don't know how he would feel about, being taken away. Kane to stay at Tottenham. That's okay. On the back page, Bagwe Dam spillage, the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana in White Volta Basin are set to evacuate ahead of that. 800 children registered for HIS at Obleman Opa. That's it for the Ghanaian Times. But, great stuff. Okay, so we have that fufu pounding video ready for you. The fufu pounding that was happening underneath the newly built
Pokwase interchange.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so that's the video. Okay.
Okay, so this is not even where I saw.
Oh, okay.
Because this is literally by the pavement.
Yeah. Right there on the pavement.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not just them, but there are other,
other
hawkers or traders who are there. Right.
And then notice that on the left, there's like a dining table set up there.
Yeah.
There are 2 benches and the table. And then there's different soups. So there's granite soup, light soup, green soup.
Really?
Yeah.
With intestine.
Dry fish with intestine, dry fish soup, And then in the plastic bowl, they have the beans, the eggs. People eat fufu with boiled eggs. Boiled eggs, there's the okra, the ginger, that's the liver that they've yammed. All of that is in there. So, set up completely and ready for business.
We're able to describe it so well.
Yeah, because I eat fufu a lot. The thing, though, is I wish that sometimes Ghanaians will take this level of ingenuity and all of that and then just take it up, the next level.
To developing a COVID vaccine.
Wow. Actually, this fufu, wow.
You feel like wanting to.
I mean, the guy is really pounding, Charlie. Yeah. And there's a woman kind of fufu there. Like, yeah, she didn't.
Okay.
Are they selling shoes next to the fufu? They're selling shoes next to the fufu.
It's okay, let's move on.
All right, sorry. I was just really excited.
Let's go to the Business Finder. On the front page, 25.4 million cedis stolen from financial institutions in 2020. That's according to a fraud report put together by the Bank of Ghana. So the total value of reported fraud cases by financial institutions for 2020 amounted to approximately 1.09 billion cedis, and it represents a 773.6% increase in reported fraud cases. If you go into the story, apparently a lot of it was done in connivance with staff of the banks, of the reporting institutions. So the criminals succeeded in stealing 25.4 million cedis compared to the 33.4 million stolen in 2019. They talk about the types of fraud. The types of fraud cases include suppression of accounts, fraudulent withdrawals, ATM, POS, forgery, manipulation of documentation, e-money fraud, cyber email fraud, mending, credit fraud. By the report, the entire report is here in the Finder, so you can get that. So 56% of the reported fraud cases involve staff. That is worrying. So internal, there's some collusion going on in them. Okay, and then we have on page 4, Ghana can still borrow from us. That's the IMF saying. And then the Business Finder has an opinion piece that says, use borrowing opportunity cautiously. And then will the sealed black and white voter to mitigate floods? And the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Uswe Freya Kutu, has stated that the Ministry's intention to deseal the black and white voter in a bid to mitigate the effect of the opening of the Bagri Dam on farmers in the 5 regions of the north. He also gave government's commitment to the construction of the $1 billion Palugu Dam as a means of curbing the devastating effect of the yearly flood. Okay,
let me just do the Daily Guide quickly before we move on to My Joy Online. On the front page of the Daily Guide, Abesim cannibal case, tools into signs found on farm. Oponi ruling bad in law, Attorney General to the Supreme Court. Let's quickly go and do some entertainment, because we haven't done any entertainment stories this morning. I don't have a fake image to maintain. That's according to Vicky Suka. That's interesting. She has acknowledged that she's not a perfect human being and therefore does not have a fake image to portray something that she's not. Ekuapim Polo returns to twerking. Yeah, though the story says Ekuapim Polo has returned to twerking several months after she put a stop to it due to her incarceration. So she has since apologized. Okay, this is the nude pictures bit. Now, she shared a video twerking to Sarkodie's song where he mentioned her name in a verse for twerking for Cardi B. Okay, yeah. AJ's Help the Needy Project donates to bedridden 34-year-old woman. Okay, that's about it for entertainment news on the Daily Guide. Okay, there's a couple more. Don't believe every headline you read. That's Joyce Blessing speaking there. And Todbe Ghana to organize cleanup exercise on Sunday. Back page, some football. Jorginho is player of the year. And Chelsea star, he beat N'Golo Kante and Kevin De Bruyne to be named UEFA's player of the year. Oh, this is according to leaks, actually, because they haven't actually done it yet. So, Keynes confirms that he's going to stay at Tottenham, invest in amateur boxing, Techi tells Corporate Ghana. And that's it for the Daily Guide. Do we have time to do the online review?
We should be able to. Okay, so let's get to my Joy Online and get to see the stories that we have there, right? So, EC acknowledged receipt of reforms, promised to look at our proposals. That's a Siedun Kete. I believe he was speaking on PM Express last night. And the other stories we have, Abesim murder, we are petrified. And that's the Assemblyman saying that. And 2 MPs are charged to investigate defense and interior ministers over election 2020 deaths. Abesim murder again. Police retrieve intestines of victims from a cocoa farm. And English cannot be barrier for me. I taught for 21 years. That's how I come sing. The fisheries minister.
I laugh enter something.
What's your problem?
It's just funny.
Oh, why?
No, I'm just...
Abesim murder. Police finds murder weapon. Attorney General wants Justice Oninyuga back on the Puni case. And Tewu gives government 2-week ultimatum to address concerns.
Alrighty, thank you, Israel, for bringing us that. And don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we bring you the sports. And of course, the show continues. There's us on the screen dancing.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Enrico. Before we start off with our first story, where Tema youth would consider heading to the Court of Arbitration for sports to have their reservations about the qualification of Accra Lions to the Ghana Premier League. The club petitioned the Ghana Football Association to review a decision of the disciplinary committee that awarded all clubs 3 points following the decision of Fire Rangers to pull out of the competition. But the football governing body is yet to respond. Joy Sports' Asari Bidiako has the rest of the story.
Tema Youth Football Club has petitioned the Ghana Football Association seeking to annul the declaration of Accra Lions as winners of Zone 3 of the 2020-2021 Division 1 League. Accra Lions were declared champions of Zone 3 on the basis of their superior goals and head-to-head advantage over Tema Youth, despite both teams finishing the season with 65 points apiece. But Tema Youth is contesting the qualification of the Accra-based club, insisting the appeals committee of the Ghana FA misapplied Article 13 of the Division 1 League regulations. Here is Public Relations Officer of Tema Youth, Eric Collins-Odum.
You only go to CAS when you think that you are still dissatisfied with the ruling, or you think that you have been treated unfairly by your local adjudicating processes. And that is how come it is clear in our constitution or the statutes that when you feel dissatisfied, there's another avenue for you, that is Court of Arbitration for Sports. And so I don't think that we are going to the ordinary court to seek redress there or to seek justice there. No. Our association or our sports is governed by a specific, laws and regulations, and that's how come we are heading there. I feel that this very committee of the association, the GFA, and then the appeals committee and the dispute committee, as I speak to you now, this case is a clear case of bias. It's a clear case of robbing Peter to pay Paul, because the variations in the 2 award decisions affected Tema Youth in the 2-point loss. Because in Amidas Professionals, Tema Youth won against Amidas Professionals and got the 3 points on the field of play after 90 solid minutes. And so when the appeals committee ruled that their points should be deducted, Tema Youth lost 6 valuable points from the accumulated points. Accra Lions drew with Amidas Professionals. And so when they expunged the points, they lost only 4 points. And so the 2 points that would have helped me to qualify to the Premier League was just taken off by virtue of the fact that the ruling went in that manner.
Eric Collins Odum is confident the CAS verdict will go in Tamayu's favor.
And I can speak on all uncertainties. I can tell you that even if you give it to my class 1 people in my house, they will rule this case in favor of me. See, Article 50.6 of the Division 1 League Disciplinary Code says that any judicial competent body can rectify in calculation any obvious error.
Tamayuth Football Club competed in the 2017 Ghana Premier League but got relegated at the end of that season.
Still on Ghana football, after an unimpressive debut in the Ghana Premier League, head coach of Legon City's football club, Maxwell Konedu, has set his sights on improving the mental fortitude of his players ahead of the 2021-2022 season. There's more in this Joy Sports report.
Legon City's debut Ghana Premier League season did not go as anticipated. The Royals finished 13th in the 2020-21 season. They played 34 games, won 11, lost 14 and drew 9, scored 34 goals and conceded 35. Legon City's escaped relegation last season thanks to the contribution of coach Maxwell Konedu, who joined the club before the end of the campaign. The former Asante Kotoko trainer has begun pre-season with his players, and his primary task is to inculcate a winning mentality in his players.
I love, developing players, unearthing talents and, giving them the platform to excel. That's one thing I love doing. But players have to get their mindset right. They have to believe in themselves. They have to, fight on the pitch together as one unit. I think that is the little that I've seen. Some do fight all right, but others are relaxed in a way. Everybody has to fight. The team has good players, good management, and they have a fantastic fan base. So.
Well, former Asante Kotoko head coach Masa Didi Dramani has been appointed head of football at Right to Dream Academy. Now, his appointment into the new road is after 3 years as transitional coach with the Right to Dream-owned Danish Super League club FC Nordsjælland. Didi Dramani is confident he will excel in his new role.
Just as others have come to work and then have left, just as others are leaving, I have come to add up what has already been instituted. Right to Dream is a huge component of a football industry where every now and then it keeps evolving, and so it is to redefine the opportunities within the privilege that these identified less privileged individuals find themselves from the remotest quarters of Africa, because Right to Dream moves beyond Ghana, and so is to redefine these projects within the system and to imbibe, a certain approach that has to deal with people identifying themselves, people, finding themselves belonging, people having the responsibilities, people feeling ownership of what they like to do, and then building in our mindset the component of reflection, which really, is dear to my heart, that if you have a privilege, definitely there are opportunities within the privilege, and then it is very important that our huge component of the character development has to do with appreciation and then showing of gratitude.
Meanwhile, Managing Director of Right to Dream, Eddie Mensah, says that Didi Dramani was appointed as head of football to make the transition of players to Europe very easy, coupled with the fact that he understands the culture of the institution.
To advance the goals of Right to Dream, we have a few things you have to think about. We want our players to transition in an easier way when they go to Europe, particularly our team at FCN. So you're looking for somebody who has experience in Europe in terms of how the players transition from one location to another, right? You also want somebody who has football experience in terms of the tactical and the technical pieces. You also want somebody who has an experience in Ghana, who has experience with Ghana football from the youth level all the way to the Premier League level. You also want somebody who understands Right to Dream's culture, because we value education and character. You also want somebody who's well respected within the football circles, within the media circles. You want somebody who has the gravitas, so that when they speak, people listen. So when I make all this list, there's really only one person that fits the entire criteria, and that's my senior brother, Didi Dramani. So in the end, it was an easy choice when the opportunity came for us to fill that role. Somebody who can handle all of football. He knows Ghana football.
All right, well, good morning once again, and it's time for AM Talk on the AM show, and the conversation is going to be about the 1992 Constitution. We started the conversation, well, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the 1992 Constitution. We started the conversation yesterday when we had experts joining us to talk about it. Now we're going to bring in the legislators. So we have two MPs joining us, and we're going to be hearing from them what they make of calls for a new constitution. There are those who are saying that we should do away with the constitution altogether and have a new one. And there are others who believe that, no, we should probably look at changing a few things and continue with review or amendments to the constitution rather than a wholesale. And we're going to be speaking with two MPs. We have Alhassan Sunyini, who's MP for Tamale North. He's a member of Lands and Forestry and Appointment Committees. And then we also have in studio Dr. Stephen Amwa. He's MP for Nshaiso. He's a member of the Finance and Privileges Committees. So thank you very much for making time to join us. To you, Alhassan Sunyini, and to you, Doctor. So welcome to the AM show. Good morning to you, Alhassan Sunyini.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, Alhassan Sunyini. If you could just unmute so we can hear you. Good morning to you.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Good morning, Israelite. Good morning to Doc too.
All right. And are you going to go to Bongo? I saw your post about Bongo water.
I've been expecting my very good friends from Bongo to come to my aid, because my appetite for the water is unquenchable.
All right. So for those of you who are not getting the Bongo joke, would mention that in a bit. But thank you very much, Doctor. Good morning to you. Are you aware of the Bongo joke?
No.
Okay, so the DC was saying that there's a high number of teenage pregnancies in his district, and he attributes it to the water that they're drinking.
Oh.
Yeah, he says it boosts potency. No, Alhassan Sunyini will probably be in a better position to tell us about that story. So you're more familiar with the story.
Well, Israel, I thought that you guys reported on it, and you will have more updates than I do. The truth is that, yes, I think you have captured it well. The DCE claims that the high incidence of teenage pregnancies in their district is as a result of the water that they drink, because it has some high sexual potency. As to how he came about that, he claims that a nurse told him, and he doesn't doubt it, because perhaps he has some experience. So perhaps that is why a lot of people try the Bongo water.
Maybe he's joking.
So Doc is in the studio and says, experience as in.
Well, he lives there. He's a district chief executive, and a nursing officer tells him something, and he says that he.
Yeah.
So, or maybe he's privy to a piece of information we are not privy to.
Well, as Alassane Sweeney is saying, he lives there. So if he comes out to tell it, they say if a crocodile comes out of the water to tell you that the water is a new Viagra, who are we to?
Is it a lake or running river?
I think maybe the boreholes. Okay. But generally, he's making.
If it's river, then wherever it flows to, all the teenagers along that stretch will be getting pregnant. And normally they flow and join the sea, so then it's going to be. So
it means if that was a kid. Okay, I'm not sure. I think it's more of the. He didn't say. Okay, but we're making reference to the water from the area, and all of a sudden, Bongo water is being talked about as the new Viagra.
Is it Viagra or the fertility? It could be that it's not necessarily Viagra, but it contains something when you drink. It boosts your system to get pregnant easily. It's possible. Maybe.
Anyway, we probably may have to investigate and have the FDA go there and check the water and see if they'll pass it.
It would have been the greatest story site in the
world. Well, Israel, just maybe for information, what I have found out is that the water table in Bongo is very low, so they tend to have a lot of drought. Many of them depend on boreholes, and unfortunately, the water that they even find when they drill these boreholes tend to have a lot of chloride in it, and it is something that has been known to affect the development of bones, especially the teeth. And so many people from that area tend to have some problems with their teeth, discolored teeth and all of that. That is the problem I have known to be associated with people from that area as a result of the water that they drink. As to whether that, also contributes to their libido, I'm sure, like you said, the scientists may have to.
I think he's changing the story.
He's changing the story. He's not changing the story.
If what you are saying is...
How am I changing it?
No, good morning, Honorable, my brother. If what you guys are saying is anything to go by, he's rather creating correlation between the water and fertility, not necessarily libido.
No, it wasn't just fertility. He didn't just talk about fertility.
But the pregnancy is not necessarily as a result of high libido, but fertility, or?
Oh, you see, all of this would have been settled if we had Manasseh Azuri Awuni, investigative journalist, go to the area and investigate, and so you come and tell us a story. So I wouldn't have to be engage in this back and forth. Manasseh, if you're watching, please go to Bongo.
Do us a favor.
Yes. Yeah, that's where actually Manasseh comes from. So if we're looking for someone to corroborate the story, who better than Manasseh Azuri? All right, but let's get into our conversations for this one. This is just a side issue. And on the front page of the Daily Dispatch, there's also the story, Doc, you're featured here on the front page. Stephen Yama taking his Inshaiso seat to another level. What is it that you're doing at Inshaiso that it's taking the seat to another level?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My greetings to our viewers this morning.
And your constituency.
And my constituency, of course. They just by the grace of God, through them, I'm here. So they know I regard them greatly. What I've tried to do is to create permanent interface for interaction between the people and the government through my outfit. So I have set up a small, a very nice office that is going to be operated between Mondays 8 to 5 to Friday 8 to 5.
Okay.
So all concerns, all questions, everything that somebody doesn't understand, you have to come in. So that even when I go back on weekends, I can go through them and see those I can respond to or extend to the government. And also, I've set up development committees, Central Committee, Education Committee, Technical Skill Acquisition Committee, Security Committee, Environment Committee, Youth Development Committee. And we have professors and doctors being members and chairpersons.
Of those committees.
So we want to use this open culture system, bring everybody on board, and model that I describe as sense of community to help us develop our communities.
All right.
And also bring in the corporate entities to also actually lay their corporate social responsibilities and help us, because if you want to wait on only government, it will be difficult. Yeah. Our schools are getting deflavorable, our environment, and then insecurity in the area. So this is what I've tried to do.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's get into the conversation. And I want to start with you, Alassane Suyene. So there's been talk for a change in the Constitution. There are those who are saying that, no, let's not change the Constitution, and that we could do with some amendments. I want to start with you. What do you make of the calls for a change? Are you for the change or for a review, or we should just keep it as it is?
Well, I think that our Constitution has served its purpose. It was written during a certain period that we were about embarking on this democratic experiment after so many interruptions in our governance system by the military. I call it the period, the decade that ended the period of decay. If you recall, President Rawlings, when he came with the coup from the 80s, managed to make it perhaps the last coup, and we hope it will be forever, and ushered in the 1992 Constitution. Now, the Constitution, if you study it well, was also guided by the experiences of previous democratic governments. For example, when you have a situation where majority of members of parliament are appointed ministers, it's as a result of the experience that we had during the Liman regime, where the government could not have its budget passed. So they thought that the fusion can help bring that harmony between the legislature and then the executive. So a number of things that happened in past democratic regimes informed some of the decisions that were, carved into the Constitution. Again, we had a number of coups, as I indicated, and Jerry Rawlings was transitioning as a coup maker into a democratic leader. And so there was still that fear of military interruptions, and the possible of military interruptions. And so it also informed those who were writing the Constitution to factor in the period, the happenings around the time. But by the grace of God, I think that over a period, 20 years plus, we've come a long way. And some of the factors that were considered for which certain decisions were taken as part of the Constitution have long outlived their usefulness, and I think we have come a full circle, and it is time for us to begin to look at some of those things. They have outlived their usefulness, but they are still in the Constitution. Again, some of them have been overtaken by time, and yet they still remain in the Constitution. And that is why I think that this discussion is long overdue. Right. You recall under the presidency of President Professor Mills, the Constitutional Review Commission was put in place. We spent a lot of money. It was made up of very distinguished, personalities. I recall Dr. Raymond Atugba, now Professor Raymond Atugba, was the secretary of that commission, I think, and they went around the country. They interacted with various groups and people and came up with a very, very beautiful document. In that document, most of the things that have, resulted in this present discussion were captured. And I recall under President Mahama also, a white paper was issued on the work of the, the Constitutional Review Commission. A white paper was issued on the Constitutional Review Commission. And we have not actually moved forward that white paper. I think it is time for us to move from that white paper and look at those provisions that the review commission, came up with. Those areas that we, in their view, the interactions that they had with people had to be relooked at and changed. And I believe that if we go back to that report, to move the discussion forward from the government white paper at the time, we will be addressing many of the concerns that are currently raised. So I am for a review. I think the nation has been for a review for some time now, and that is why the commission was put up. And so it's just a matter of us picking up the pieces from where we left off. From the white paper, I think that the discussion can flow from there, and we will if there's a need to fine-tune anything, we will all contribute to fine-tuning that.
All right, so I'll put the same question to you, Dr. Amoah. Where do you stand? Review, scrap, or let's maintain the status quo?
Thank you very much. I'm not a legal practitioner. So probably,
oh no! And this conversation, this conversation is not about legal practice.
I just wanted to draw the preamble, like the basis on which I'm going to speak.
All right.
Because maybe we have other listeners who are probably in those specific areas, and sometimes when you speak, they think. That's why I'm just drawing attention of.
Because when
I'm speaking as an ordinary man.
When the Constituent Assembly was put together for the drafting of the 1992 Constitution, it drew people from all walks of life.
Of course. So maybe I will speak as grassroots person, as defined by Ghanaians, which also fit into what you're saying. I think, in my opinion, there are growing and changing needs of the people. And for that matter, we need to first do very comprehensive review of the whole Constitution.
All right.
And see which extracts are important to stay as they are, and those we need to amend or even scrap. We, as a people, must understand the fact that even sometimes a constitutional extract, just simply because of the size of the population today, might not augur well for us to still use. Just the changing needs in terms of our infrastructure, our development, and even the entrenchment and integration of global processes and other requirements, because we are day in and day out getting more entrenched, more integrated into global issues. And sometimes there are conflicting issues that we need to amend our constitution to be on board. There's this thing about our laws, that when I was CEO of Maslock, I had a very strong argument with one of my bosses, is it then Dr. Akoto, former Deputy Finance Minister, on this issue of what the PFM Act says about some of these are laws. And I think even in our constitution, we have issues relating to those areas. And I think there was a clash of two legal instruments, that even when a budget is approved for specific expenditure outlay and is not released, you cannot even spend if you have money.
Okay.
And that it was quite broad to the extent that it includes even emolument, salaries. But you also know that if people work for you for some time, you're not paying them, it's also illegal.
Yeah.
So sometimes under all governments, you realize that for 6 months, release for emolument or salaries is not done. You have IGF. People are not being paid. That means if you are to go strictly by the PFM Act or even by the law, you won't pay them for 6 months.
You can't touch
and that is also
IGF.
That is also against the law.
Yeah.
So there was a clash of two legal instruments. And it raised a lot of argument. I mean, when I said this, I'm not a legal practitioner. What I'm trying to say is that there are so many gray areas in our constitution today. And sometimes it creates controversies, argument. It makes people act, sometimes not necessarily in bad faith or in any dubious attempt to probably misappropriate state funds or put up any antisocial behavior or actions and inactions dysfunctional or inimical to the performance of our republic. However, the law can catch up with the person and the person can be jailed. I hope you understand. Yeah. So I think it is time, as my brother from the minority side, Honorable Suhini, said, I think it is time. We've gone through the full cycle. As to whether we should throw away everything and do a new one, I think we need to do very constructive analysis of the issue and have the best alternative taken. We should consider whether scrapping, some of you scrap the whole thing and still repeat some of them. So what's the point? Sometimes scrapping the whole thing will mean that we need to spend more. And now we have issues with money as a country. Sometimes even trying to do careful review and take extract will rather cost us more. So I think we need to sit down and bring on board all stakeholders and decide before we take the action to either amend or change the entire constitution. Okay. I think it's extremely important.
But then Alassane Suhini also makes the point that a lot of work has been done already. It started with the late President Mills. And so why don't we go to that and take whatever they have done?
Yeah, I think that will be all part of, if that is what he's saying is true, which I think is true. I don't think he will lie for anything. It has to be considered in the process and see that probably even the work done at that time, still we have to change something because we've had a few years. Or they are the best to fit. Probably even the work done, we may not need to even do any extra, only just amend and insert those things we need. So I'm saying that it has to be done, one, holistically, two, we have to bring relevant stakeholders on board, Sometimes my problem in our country is that there are people who do not have the requisite expertise in some of these exercises, but they find their ways into the committees and the bodies managing it. That's why we have problems. We shouldn't think of whether somebody is in opposition or in government or somebody is A or B. We need to analyze carefully the social stratification and see which segments fit into this exercise so that we can have something which will benefit the state. And mind all of us, nobody is going to be in power in perpetuity. So we need to get a document that will serve the needs of Ghanaians, not a specific time for certain defined group. No, I think we need about amending the constitution or changing it. To me, is of importance. We need to find that very critical.
Okay, so one of the things we've heard from the conversations that have taken place so far is the conversation that yes, we had a constitution, or we put together a constitution that was to give us political stability, which was because we're transitioning from a military regime or a military era to a democratic era. So we needed political stability. Almost 30 years after that, we probably have attained the political stability, and now we should be having a constitution that will bring development. Now, the president has been speaking.
So this one hasn't brought development.
Okay, so not that he hasn't brought development, but it should be more development oriented.
I agree. Probably make changes that will make sure that modern day development can be actually attained in a way we want it. But if they say that we need a constitution that will rather bring development, but because the other one was just transitional stuff.
No, it was more politically.
It cannot be taken like that.
But let me bring in Suhini. Do you agree that yes? In fact, from the conversation, what you've said so far, you actually appreciate that we created or we had a constitution that was taking care of a certain era. Now, there's some who are saying that let's now be focused or have a constitution that's looking more at development. Okay, it turns out we have lost Alassane Suhini, but I'll be putting that question to you. But let's get to hear what the president has had to say. The president has spoken about talks about the calls for a new constitution, and he doesn't quite think that we should he feels that we should be cautious when it comes to talk about reviewing the constitution, because he believes that this constitution has served us well. Let's get to hear the president, and then we'll come back to the conversation.
There are people around this table, Dr. Kwete is one of them, who know about my attitude to the effort that one of my predecessors, the late Professor Mills, made to revise the Constitution. I never agreed with the methods by which the whole undertaking was taken. I don't believe that the Constitution is the work of the President of the Republic. Having regard to the difficulties that our country has had to arrive at a multi-party constitutional dispensation that has endured. And the Fourth Republic is the one that has endured. We saw the First Republic, which had its own problems, authoritarian rule, one-party rule. We had the problems of the Second Republic. We had the problems involved in the Third Republic, all of which were short-lived. To have a republic that has lasted nearly 30 years in the context of our history, to change the constitutional arrangements that have assisted this durability, we should be very careful how we go about it. I feel very strongly on that point, and that is why I have not lent my support to the idea of this wholesale review of the Constitution. The one area which I felt required action was the one that I put before the country, which was the extension of multi-party democratic rule to local governments.
All right, so that's President Akufo-Addo. He spoke about a week or so ago, and that's his position. He feels that for him, when it comes to the election of MMDCs, that's what he feels strongly about, and that's what he tried to do, but that didn't quite work out. So that's the president's position. But yes, coming back to... I
think if you heard him very well,
yeah,
he's not against making changes in the Constitution. He's rather not for wholesale, that is changing the entire thing. That's what he said it right now. And two, even with Professor Mills, if I heard him right, he was rather having concerns about the methods or the process. So it looks like the president still appreciates the fact that, yes, there could be extracts from the Constitution that we can look at, review, and make amends. But talking about wholesale changing or whatever of the Constitution, he feels strongly, he doesn't really lend his support. And I also support him because why do we change the status quo that has worked? I'm not saying it has worked entirely, but for about 30 years now, this Constitution has been, on the aggregate, very successful. However, time, growing needs, changing needs, transforming society, global issues, other global agencies and stakeholder groups and individuals, behavioral patterns of the people, society and other things, all these matrix of factors call for the need to review our constitutions and see that, okay, this aspect we can amend, this aspect, such as he just cited. That one I think is perfect, and that's what I stand for. Right. But if you say we should change everything entirely, trust me, the new one that we do, a lot of them will contain the same old one. Some of them, you cannot even change them. So I think that is what the president means. Okay. That we should rather consider extracts rather than wholesale. And he also said something that legally I don't understand. I don't know. Okay. That he said that the task doesn't lie solely with the presidents of the republic or something. I don't know if I heard him right. Okay, he said something like that. And I don't know the legal interpretation.
It's an issue that actually lawyer Bobby Bansing, who joined us for the conversation yesterday, pointed out to me that it has been determined by the Supreme Court that there was no problem with the way the president went about it. Because
that is Prof. Mills or
Professor Mills.
Okay,
the way Professor Mills went about it, because eventually it's going to come to Parliament, and then Parliament would arrange for the referendum to happen, and then we would either adopt the.
But what was the convention? What was the process?
I'm not sure what the convention has been, but eventually it always ends up in a referendum. But we have Alassane Sweeney back on joining us back via Zoom. So. Mr. Sweeney, so you've heard what the president has said, but I also wanted you to speak to the issue of whether we should be looking for a constitution that's more development oriented.
Well, I don't understand what you mean by a constitution that is more development oriented. Because if you look at,
let me clarify. So the conversation is, we've had a constitution that, or we framed a constitution, drafted a constitution that was to take care of a certain context, and that we wanted political stability at the time. So, and you alluded to that, the fact that we're moving from a military regime to a democratic dispensation. So we have to put some things in place to ensure that that democratic experiment succeeds. Now, that democratic experiment, you can say, having had this going on for nearly 30 years, has succeeded, which, like you say, we appear to have had the last coup behind us. So should we be looking at something that then looks at how more development oriented? That's the point I was making.
Yes, I get that, but I agree with you, and that is why when I started, I talked about the fact that the Constitution was written for a certain period, taking into consideration the threats of that period, and perhaps that is why we had focus on a constitution. I agree with you, that will guarantee stability. So you had the entrenched clauses in there. You also had a concentration of almost all the power in the executive president. And that is how come even today, Parliament simply does government business. It is just recently that we have tried to introduce a private members bill. Until now, largely every business that was done in Parliament was government business. And that is why we still have the leader of government business as minister in Parliament, so that the executive always gets its business done on the floor. But it was not entirely focused on just ensuring the stability. If you, for example, look at our principles of state, which is also under the Constitution, it has touched on almost everything that is a developmental deficit in this country. For example, in the area of human rights, it tells you what the nation should be looking at. In the area of even the economy, in the area of morality, in the area of public health, in the area of transportation, it is all captured under the principles of state policy, in the 1992 Constitution. And I look at that, part of the Constitution, and it is development focused. And it is from there that many of our acts of Parliament have even stemmed from. So you have the RTIs, you have the almost all the legislations that we have had has stemmed from the principles of state policy. And so I tend to think that the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, even in its current form, it's development focused. But yes, if there is an agreement for us to fine tune it, I am sure that current trends, for example, IT and others that have come about and driving business and the economy can find expression in the review, which will serve the current trends and perhaps even future expectations. So we can continue the discussion, like I stated earlier, picking it from where the past presidents left off. And that is where I tend not to entirely agree with the president when he says it does not lie with the president. I think that we know in this country that for discussions like this to be moved from the platforms where they are conducted to action, you will need some executive push. And for example, you will need the president to look at the white paper that was issued by his predecessor. If there's anything that he also wants to agree with or disagree with, make it known. Forward, for example, the report of the Constitutional Review Commission to Parliament for consideration, and possibly a discussion around a referendum. That is after all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. That is how the discussion can be moved forward. It will need that executive push for it to be moved forward. I think that, like I indicated, we all as a nation have agreed over the period that there's a need for us to fine-tune the Constitution, and that is what led to the formation of the Review Commission in the first place. And mind you, it was made up of very, very distinguished personalities. I mean, Professor Raymond Atuguba is no mean person when it comes to the law in this country. I remember there was Dr. Gambila on it, a former deputy finance minister under President Kufuor's era. I think the late Apia Minka was also on it. I mean, these are people who served and distinguished themselves in the areas that they served in. And there were also some chiefs on it as well. So it was a carefully thought of, commission put together, representing almost every shade of opinion in the country. And they also did an extensive work, by going around the country and interacting with various groups, and finally filtering the views that they got, and arriving at what they arrived at. A number of very useful things were suggested for consideration. And that is why I find the current discussion interesting, because almost all the areas that people are seeing to be of concern were touched on. For example, whether chiefs can even play politics, whether Parliament is serving the role that it should serve, what the limitations are, what can be done. They considered all of these things, and I think that it will be useful if we get that executive push that is necessary for us to pick the pieces from where the former president left up with the white paper. And maybe just by the way, I am excited that we all tend to now have a proper meaning of what a review is.
I get what you're trying to do now. Okay, he says he's happy that we now appreciate what when we say a review. There's this conversation about SHS free SHS being reviewed, and then they will say, oh, you mean to scrap, you need to do away with free SHS. Maybe I'll let you, Alastair Sweeney, explain it.
Yes, I think it's all right. I mean, just listening to the conversation here.
He just wants to make a point.
Okay, sure. Sorry. Yes, just listening to the conversation here, we all understand that there are maybe three propositions. You have those who say discard the Constitution, that is scrap the Constitution and do a new one. You have those who say we should review the Constitution and look at the gray areas and make it right. And it is based on this discussion that I am satisfied that there's no longer a debate over whether review means cancellation or it really means what it means.
Okay,
make something
Dr.
better.
Amwa is just shaking his head.
As in the discussion of the free SHS, like you rightly pointed, it was as if a review just meant cancellation and throw it away.
One problem we have in our country is that not with Honorable Suhini's statement alone. We tend to, in my opinion, try to do propaganda with statements and comments and give it different meanings. The issue about even SHS and this one, they are entirely two different issues. Schools are daily going through reviews. That's why I have M&E.
No, you continue making your point.
Yeah, but I want to talk so that he doesn't distract you.
Oh, no, he's not distracting you.
Please, I'm not.
Then I'll do that. You shouldn't stop me.
Oh, no. I'm saying, go ahead.
So if I'm distracted, you should stop laughing, then I'm
okay. Yes.
Thank you. What I'm saying is that all the schools in Ghana, even before free SHS, we have monies allocated to district heads for monitoring and evaluations. And these are review exercises. So what are they talking about? If we want to get serious with this review and SHS and change, these are all semantics and, the way the communist inferior tactics do their politics since I mean, those days up to now.
I think the point is just
I'm not talking about his point alone. The issue of review that we were talking about is entirely different from this. We don't review our constitution. It's not part of us. It's not a process. It's not a routine. Now we feel it has gone through the cycle. There are growing and changing needs. We want to do something to it. Then we can say, okay, let's review, look at areas we can amend. Others are saying we should entirely scrap and bring. It's entirely different. Because we can't tell people that, oh, now there's a difference between review and no. Education field is always or must always be reviewed because we have monitoring and evaluation exercises that cause for constant changes. It's there. It's different from this. Don't let us joke with words and people will take, oh, they are the same. I don't do it. I'm very detailed about some of these social discussions. So they are entirely different. Unless somebody will tell me that education, there's nothing like monitoring and evaluation. And monitoring, evaluation, and adjustment basically is talking about review. You check what is happening and make amends.
All right. Now that we both agree that something has to be done about the Constitution, the conversation then is some of the areas that we should be looking at. One of the areas that has come up strongly has to do with the structure and how much influence or power is left with the executive. There are those who are saying that the Constitution, the way it is now, vests so much power in the executive, which is the president. So much so that we're not having the checks and balances as we're supposed to have in a structure, in a typical constitution or democracy where the three arms of government, can check each other. The president is probably way too powerful. What do you make of that conversation?
I think...
And you, maybe let me just add to it. It also goes to buttress a point that we were making earlier, that at the time the Constitution was being drafted, probably the framers were having a military, somebody who has been in power for so long, coming from the military era. And so we have to find a way of easing him out so that if you don't put him in a presidency, that you strip him of many of the powers. So let's still make him feel comfortable enough. And so let's give him all the power to appoint as many people, the people in the various organs as possible. So that brings me back to the conversation. Now, is that something that we should look at, considering the amount of power vested in the president?
I think this issue has given rise to much controversy among key stakeholders and even the citizenry. It's really like everybody is saying that, oh, the president is having too much power? There seems to be too much power imbalance. And because of that, probably some of the things presidents do, not one president, do not normally reflect the interests of the people. I think I share that sentiment.
All right.
I think I share that sentiment. I think the essence of democracy is to ensure that at least there is meaningful amount of power when it comes to decision making affecting state resources, properties, and activities. People should have their hands on. But if the power is said that I alone, because if you're one person, apart from God, you can make a lot of mistakes. Even, I think, the followers of Christ, I'm not the Islamic person, so I don't know, but I'm sure even there are a lot of mistakes, even angels. Probably out of mistakes, some of them were thrown down. So anytime there's power imbalance, there's this danger of decision-making processes being integrated or being actually left to be controlled by arbitrariness, which might not necessarily be deliberate on the part of the president, A or B or C. So I think it is an area we should look at critically.
All right.
We should look at it. But I also think that even absolute democracy, in my opinion, and the bone of absolute democracy, to me, is also too hard for a developing economy such as ours. Because sometimes those powers that the presidents also have sometimes also help. Because sometimes because of democracy, simple things that could be done to let things go
tend to drag.
It will drag for years.
Bureaucracy.
I hope you understand what I'm saying. If you look at even most of the well-cherished modern day economies or societies such as Rwanda, even Singapore, South Korea, you realize that more or less there is a mixture of democracy and autocracy. Yeah. I'm not calling for military rule or absolute autocracy, but I also think per our mindset and our attitudes and our behaviors and our conventions and our values and cultural stuff and ritual behaviors, I think sometimes too much of power to the people also lead to delay and destruction of most of our social values, which could rather serve as functions of our performances. So I think we need to look at that critically. It has its good side and it has its bad side. Right. And that is why one thing that Suhini said, Honorable said, I was very happy with, the caliber of people that were on board when Professor Mills attempt to let us work on the Constitution. I think we need to also get same team, caliber of team. And they also should include young people. The names that he was mentioning were, almost all of them were old people. I'm not saying old people are not good, they have experience. But trust me, strategy has about 3 lenses. Experience and by technique and also by ideas. Right. And I think sometimes modern day young ones, a lot of them could apply a lot of evaluative techniques and other things and make sure that what we put in there will also serve the need of today and also going forward. Right. So I think they should include the young people who have their ideas and input into some of these as also very important. They shouldn't assemble only old men. I don't think that is important.
All right, so Alassane Sweeney, Dr. Amwa believes that, yes, he agrees that the presidency or the executive seems to have quite a bit of power and that we should find a way of redrawing that balance. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, Israel, your analogy is right. I mean, you had someone who had absolute power by way of seizing it through a military coup and had to be transitioned into a democracy where the absolute power had to be shedded off. And so it needed to be done, not drastically, but, with some level of attention to the absolute power that the person had so that it didn't impact him greatly. And so that consideration, I'm sure, was what was factored into centralizing the power the way it is being centralized in our constitution, where the president basically everybody in government. I mean, board members, now it is even extended to deputy directors, at institutions. I mean, I think it is too much. It is something that we need to have a structure to take care of, and not one man, being Tarzan and doing all of those things. But I also agree that, and maybe let me share this with you, something my late grandfather always used to say about Africa and democracy. For him, at our level of development, he likened our situation to fastening things, using a hammer and a nail. If you want to fasten things in a less developed environment, treat it like a hammer and a nail. You will fasten them, but you will need some force, and you will need the nail to bind it together. In the developed countries, he likened it to a screw and a screwdriver. Maybe it's because he was a military man, so that was his interpretation of things. But if you actually look into history, most of the countries that we compare ourselves to by way of development did not also start being this liberal. They also started with certain level of what is known as democratic centralism, where the power is still concentrated somehow for some decisions to be made, especially when those decisions do not appear very popular with the masses. But the leadership can see far ahead how impactful and useful those decisions can be. That is what is called the democratic centralism. So yes, even as we call for the review that will lead to shedding of some of the powers of the president, we need to understand that we will still need a segment where a hammer and a nail sometimes are what is needed to put things together and not necessarily a screw and a screwdriver, where things are normal and laws work and people behave in a much better way. They have a much better attitude than we do at our level. So let us be careful when we say that we are going to shed the power that is concentrated in the executive, even though I agree that it is too much. Some of it should be taken away, but I also recognize the principle of democratic centralism, even in a democracy.
All right. It's great that the conversation is proceeding quite smoothly so far. You both seem to agree on most of the things that we're talking about. Now, let me move on to one other plank that has come up, which has to do with the treatment of Article 71 office holders. There are those who are saying that, and it's come up in the recent demonstration by public sector workers who were saying they got some 4% as salary increase, and yet the Article 71 office holders, they who are in a much privileged position already, got a lot more. And so the conversation is about, can we look at this issue of Article 71 office holders and look at emoluments for everybody else? And in the conversation we had yesterday with the renowned HR practitioner and thought leader, Dr. Hazel Berard Amwa, she was saying, or she suggested something to the fact we probably could have everybody on a single spine, from the president all the way to the end. She's not saying that we should give them the same salaries. She said you can give the president whatever amount you're going to give the president, but then we should look at whatever increase you're going to give. If you're going to give 1% increase, probably everybody should get 1% increase across the spine. I'd want to start with you, Alastair. What do you make of that one?
Yes, so I agree with you again that we all seem to agree on many of the issues that we have raised, except the question of review, which my brother started with an advice and then ended up not leaving by it.
Let's not go back.
But that's just by the way. We'll move forward. He says for propaganda reasons we changed the interpretations of things, and then he went right ahead to do exactly that by trying to change the meaning of review based on different contexts. But that's just by the way. Now, I think that the question of Article 71 holders over the period, we've all contributed to the misunderstanding that a lot of people have of what it represents. I don't excuse myself at all because I worked in the media for a very long time, and we all contributed to the misunderstanding that I now see exists as far as holders of Article 71 offices are concerned when it comes to their emoluments. But I think that we can address or cure that if we, for example, set up an emoluments committee or a commission that is responsible for determining emoluments for everyone, public sector workers, and even Article 71 office holders. I mean, it is going to, and even the issue of whether spouses of ex-presidents and presidents should be taken care of will be determined by this emoluments committee or commission, so that it does not lie in the hands of the president or parliament to determine what each of them gets. I mean, it now becomes, a professional thing that is done based on certain criteria that is used by the emoluments committee to determine the compensations that all categories of workers are entitled to. Yeah. So if you look at it critically, the misunderstanding has always come from the fact that over the period, we have not, as a people, tried to explain the circumstances. And I'll use Parliament, for example.
All right.
Look, as a member of Parliament in the 8th Parliament, fortunately, I was in the 7th Parliament. So in the 8th Parliament, I am taking salary of the 7th Parliament. And in the 7th Parliament, I was taking salary of the 6th Parliament. Because the Constitution says that a president should set up a committee that will determine the salaries of parliamentarians. That is Article 71 office holders, including judiciary, and others. Now, over the period, presidents have turned around to set up these committees late in the day. So as we speak, the committee is not being formed for 71 office holders of Article 71. So we are basically being treated under the conditions of service for the previous parliament or the previous office holders. So at the end of the period, when the committee is set up, the committee then determines how much we should have been paid from January 7, 2021.
Yeah.
And then, because we're not paid that much, you know, it is calculated over the period of 4 years. The arrears, the extra that we should have been paid is calculated over the period and paid to us as ESB. So it is actually salary arrears, which over the period have been termed end of service benefit, but it is actually not end of service benefit. For example, if I was supposed to be taking 1,005 today, and I am taking 1,200, and I'm not using denominations, so you can imagine whatever. But if I was paid to pay 1,000, we pay 1,005, and I'm taking 1,002 today, and then the committee sets up maybe in the third or fourth year of the president and determines that I should have been paid 1,005 from January 7, 2021. Then they will calculate the 300 Ghana cedis short by 4 years and then pay it to me as lump sum. That is what usually generates the uproar. And that is why I say it is because over the period, we have really not taken our time to explain it well and for people to understand. So that, for example, we can say that because of that uproar, we do not want the arrears again. Let the president do what he's supposed to do as one of the first things he does before he is sworn in, when he is sworn into office. Set up the committee, determine my conditions of service, and let me receive it bi-monthly, so that you don't owe me and pay me arrears at the end of 4 years. That becomes a lump sum for me. That will create the unnecessary, agitations. In the area of, for example, car loans, Parliament, again, is one institution that, in my view, has been given a raw deal over the period, because almost all Article 71 office holders are given state vehicles that are chauffeur-driven and fueled by the state and serviced by the state. So you have the judiciary, they are given vehicles. They have drivers that the state pays. The state provides them with fuel, and the state services those vehicles. The same is for a Council of State members. But you see, the part for MPs, I don't think came out of the blue. I think it was based on good intentions, where they said that the MPs must contribute to getting their own cars by way of taking loans from the states that are subsidized. Yeah. Now, if you compare the number of MPs we have, which is likely to increase, the cost the state will have to bear to provide them with vehicles and provide them with drivers and fuel and servicing and maintenance is so huge. How many judges do we have? So the state can take care of that. How many council of state members do we have? So the state can do that. But now we have 275 members of parliament, and likely we will increase because we have just finished a population census.
Right.
If the state is going to be providing vehicles for these 275, maintaining and providing drivers and paying the drivers and servicing those vehicles, you can imagine the cost. So the people who thought of the car loan at the time, I'm sure were considering the impact of that on the state and decided that why don't we let the MPs have their cars so that they are responsible for finding a driver if they want and paying the driver if they want. They maintain the car when it breaks down. They service the car whatever mileage they do, and does not come to the state. But over the period, this has also not been explained so well to the people, and that is why the last time Parliament had a discussion on this, a lot of us, I thought, got emotive, and instead of making people understand our situation, threw our hands in the air and contradicted ourselves when we said, look, we do not want the car loans anymore because we are interested in preserving the state purse and protecting the state purse. So we don't want the car loans anymore.
Mr. Serena, you make a good argument when it comes to just the issue of MPs, but the conversation is not so much about just the MPs. They're looking at the Article 71 office holders altogether as a whole. Yeah. And so let's not make it so much about, but yes, you can argue about it.
I agree with you. That is why I started by saying that to deal with it, we need an emoluments committee or commission.
All right.
That will be a standing commission looking at emoluments across board. But I am saying that over the period, the issue of Article 71 holders have always largely been around emoluments to MPs. For a very long time, some didn't even know that Article 71 office holders included the judiciary and even members of the Council of State. Because the discussion has always been sparked by how much MPs get by way of car loans or by way of what is mistakenly called ESB. So that is why I went in that direction to explain that. But I understand that the discussion is about Article 71 office holders. And I think the best cure to it is for us to have a standing emoluments commission, just as we have the Fair Wages Commission, determining emoluments of all public sector workers, including Article 71 office holders.
All right, thank you very much. So I come to you, Dr. Amwa. So he's made his point. He agrees that, yes, we probably should be looking at an emoluments commission that would look at everybody else so that we have something that's a lot fairer. What's your position on that?
I think everything I'm supposed to say...
He said it.
He said it.
Right.
But there's something which is missing. We are not looking at. I think one of the reasons most African countries, including Ghana, this is my opinion, I could be wrong, we either misapply foreign models or even our own policies designed and used or outlaid are not most of the times best fit or fitting our situations. We tend to gloss over prevailing issues, analyzing them and understanding them in our context, and design models and methods and solutions to make sure that, yes, this is our situation. This is how best our model or solutions must be. In which context?
Can you give us an example?
Let me tell you something. A lot of the, I won't say noise, forgive me, destructive interference of waves in our society today, although they are right. For instance, lecturers, health workers, to me, within the civil service or the public service, to me, I respect them most. They are the only areas I can say in terms of productivity, teachers, nurses, lecturers, they are wonderful. Monies paid to them, to me, are not enough, I agree. But behind the scenes, when you meet some of them, you say that, oh, the MPs are giving this. Why not we? Article 71 and that. If we want to find very fair line of emolument outlay, I agree. But that dimension they go. My brother, I'm being very practical. When you say this, somebody said, oh, why should MP come on TV or radio and talk about how he or they, the MPs are spending? And I'm like, wow, what's wrong with that? Our society is quite different. I'm being honest with you. No MP, unless maybe, I don't know how the other MPs behave, but if you're MP who really, or that wants to help society and community, and you know that people, when you ask them for something they don't even have, they don't feel comfortable, they always want to give. My brother, they can give us 100,000 a month or even 2 months.
Yeah.
It can never, ever equate the pressure on you from society. And somebody said that, oh, you decided to be MP. No problem. I'm sure a time may come, if this thing doesn't change, the very good people in our society will leave corridors of politics and will not argue war for us. Because we have a society that almost every community, people who are very poor, they can't get food to eat. They can't pay their school fee. They are dying in hospitals. They will come to your doorstep And even now, it's getting to the point that almost everywhere, and it's the doing of MPP and NDC. When the NDC, they are in power, we use things we are not supposed to use against them. And they also use things they are not supposed to use against us. So we have defined appraisal tool or method for the public. So even things that are not within the jurisdiction of the MP, such as fixing bridges, light, somebody dying, hospital not good, they push all onto the MPs. And trust me, if I quote how much probably I need to get a week, you will not believe me. I'll say it off air. So people should also be honest enough and understand that our society is such that if somebody comes out as a politician, you move out of here. At the airport, at the filling stations, church places, every community, at the funerals, in your homes, not your family members. So somebody is dying, Kolebu, I need 300,000 cedis to top my medical bills. So in analyzing these things, we shouldn't take this out of context, because some of these things are also influencing and enhancing corruption.
Yeah.
So we need to be honest.
Okay, sure.
Analyzing all these things, then people can make the statements they make.
Yeah.
If not, we'll design a very fair line, one structure, single spine, and trust me, it will not practically work.
You said something that I find quite instructive. You essentially say it's the doing of the MPP and the NDC. The NDC will use something against the MPP, and then the MPP eventually also use it again. To me, it sounds like then the two parties are the problems of this country.
Oh, Ghanaians are problems. No. You see, let me tell you something. Anything that you find NDC, MPP people doing, it's not because the NDC, MPP or politicians.
It's Ghanaians who made them do that.
If you like right now, take Honorable Suhini, His Excellency former President Mahama, President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa, everybody, all the active politicians, take us away. Bring new set of Ghanaians. This is where we make mistakes. The problems we are having in our country is not because the definition and the ethos and the works and activities of politics. It takes the behavioral pattern of ordinary Ghanaians. Ghanaian or Ghanaians as a whole. So these issues must be addressed in the context of our own behaviors. Not because somebody is in one organization. But I'm saying that right now, if there should be competition among media houses, you see what they would do. Oh, Joy FM, another media house will try to put you in a situation that does not even fit media practice. And by doing that constantly, after some time, the general public will then define what they think should be your performance. And this is destroying us.
Now
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure. We have very little time. Our time is up, but I would like us to end on the work of the Privileges Committee, and I'd come to you, Lansan Suyini. How far with the issue you're having with the issue you took to the Privileges Committee as far as Kennedy Japan is concerned?
Well, I would have loved to take a bite on whether NPP and NDC are the problems in this country, but you have also raised an equally important matter that I need to speak to. Yes, what happened was that the Privileges Committee could not find a suitable time to meet myself and Honorable Kennedy Japan before the House rose. And I understand at their last meeting, there was an agreement for them not to sit during recess because some members didn't want a situation where a meeting will be called at a time many members are in their constituency and are unable to attend the meeting. And you know the way the House operates. If they were not able to attend, then the committee formed a quorum. Matters could easily be dismissed or, taken in a direction that others may not be comfortable with. But because a quorum is formed, it will become difficult to challenge it. So the members at their last meeting agreed not to sit during recess. And so I'm confident that when the House resumes from recess, the committee members will meet again and determine a day to meet myself and Honorable Kennedy Japan. That is the information I have from the committee. And I think it was a logical, decision to have been reached, because the country is that big. During recess, many members are usually in their constituencies interacting with their constituents, and if a committee meeting is called and a member is not able to attend, it can impact on the sittings. But if you just allow me a minute.
Oh no, we don't have any more time. Actually, unfortunately, we have to go. But thank you very much, Alassane Suini, Tamale North MP, for joining us for AM Talk. I'd like to give you the last word, and also on the Privileged Committee issue. And
the Privileged Committee issue. Yes, just as he said, I'm a member of the committee, and we needed the two of them. Actually, not that we extended officially invitation to them and they did not attend. So the time that we wanted to sit down, we could not even have them, so we had to postpone it. But then, my brother, I think sometimes things are very funny, the way people want to behave. When I speak, I'm not an angel. Me, I'm not holy. But sometimes I think Ghanaians shouldn't think it's only fornication and murder that are sins in Ghana, per our Bibles and Qurans.
Right.
Look, the Standing Order 28 actually stipulates what constitutes Privileged Committee handling such issues.
Okay.
And I'm coming. Let me land with this. And I want you to go and read. Actions or whatever, or omissions which impede Parliament in its functions, or officer or member of Parliament in discharge of its duties, you come to a code of conduct 2. It specifies that somebody's private life cannot constitute these things. So now that I'm here, if I have issues with you and I even threaten you, what has it got to do with Parliament? What has it? At least civil action could be taken. I'm not saying what Kennedy did was right or wrong, but we have to be very serious in our country, especially when it has to deal with certain levels and positions. Right now, if I misbehave towards you, I threaten you, I could be taken to court, civil case, no problem. It's a bad behavior. But what has that got to do with Parliament? Then people who are fighting their wives on the street, being slapped and slapping back, should be pulled by the Privileges Committee.
So the issue is it brings Parliament into disrepute.
So then everybody will be brought. So if out there, if I insult somebody, if I slap somebody, I should be brought to Parliament. Is that what we are talking about? It is in the discharge of Parliament functions, or an officer in the discharge of his parliamentary duty. It's there. I'm not saying what Kennedy did was wrong or right. I'm not talking about that. But I think as a people, we need to be more serious and sometimes reduce the antagonism because of politics. Once we do that, we create platforms. That is what I was talking about NDC and PP. When we unnecessarily bring in politics and try to do things just for political power and other things, then we define the public to always attack us. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stephen Amwa, MP for Inshai. So, and to you too, Alassane Suini, Tamale North MP, for joining us for AM Talk. Thank you too for watching. We're taking a break, after which we're bringing you showbiz. Do stay tuned in. You're still watching the AM show on JoyNews.